Sure. Just wanted to ask you, Som, candidly though, what do you see as the biggest challenge ahead for Tech Mahindra? Is it being able to retain and then attract newer clientele and retain existing clientele? Is it rationalizing the workforce, which may indeed be required? Or is it the kind of liabilities they may have to face?
Well, the normal challenges that come in of any merger or integration of this size is something that, any two organizations merging will go through. As I said, from our understanding of Tech Mahindra's business and what was Satyam's business, I think there are more synergies than overlaps. So I don't expect dramatic changes. So they would probably want to retain all the goodness of Satyam, all the customers that they have. There'll be surely rationalization at some level of, how the models operate, how the verticals operate. But I won't be terribly concerned with any large fallouts, negative fallouts of this. I only see positive in this stuff. And it is just the fact that we are having this integration happening at a time when the markets are not at best. So everything that the new merged entity or actions would be taken would probably not be only related to the merger, but would also be related to the economic situation right now.
So, Som, you remain confident that this is not the end of the road for Satyam. Now it can be built upon, and maybe in a year's time we'll have a stronger entity than what it is today, that steady disintegration will be stemmed successfully?
Yeah, I am very confident about this. I don't think anybody pays money to disintegrate. This is not buying competition. This is buying business. And, we are very delighted. If the negative had to happen, it would have happened in January. And if we had not acted swiftly as we did, government understanding the situation, NASSCOM doing its bit. And I must also give credit to the corporate India. For the first time, they all committed to three things: that we would not talk negative about Satyam because it was somebody who committed fraud and there was nothing wrong with their customers and their business model. Second is, we will not willfully poach either their customers and employees. And while some customers and employees did take their choices, large number of them retained. So I think we collectively did an outstanding job. And I think we should, like was said before, take pride in this, move on, and be able to tell the world that we can take action, even given our laws and so on, when we want to.
Just a couple of more clarifications. The company law board chairman says that he expects Satyam to file for bidder approval within the next 2 to 3 days. Everything should be smooth unless there is any objection, and the company law board should not take more than 24 hours after filing to give you a reaction or to give a go-ahead to this merger, or rather marriage between Tech Mahindra and Satyam. Suresh Senapati joins in for a quick take on that. Suresh, your preliminary thoughts on what was looked at as the dark horse but is now the entity that will own Satyam, Tech Mahindra?
Well, I think as an industry leader, we are happy that the uncertainty relating to Satyam's future, particularly for the employees, is finally set to rest. The task ahead for the new team is cut out to retain and rebuild the confidence of customers, employees, and all other various stakeholders. And we wish the team all the very best.
On hindsight, Suresh, as a technology company yourself, would you consider this a missed opportunity that somebody else in the space walked away with a $1.5 billion asset and the leaders all chose to stay away?
Well, Udayan, we've always have a strategy in place in terms of which one to go for an acquisition and which one not to. And this was definitely not part of our strategy from an aggregation point of view. And hence, we stayed away with it. So it wasn't as if the asset has been very cheaply made available and so on and so forth, but we have always gone through a strategy-based M&A. And we did not ever think that this is the right strategy for us to chase for. And that's why we stayed away. So no regrets at all.
Do you think Tech Mahindra, which now probably after the integration gets catapulted into close to a $2.5 billion company, makes it one other sizable competitor for you to reckon with? Would you consider them into the big league right now?
I would say so potentially. I'm sure getting this particular asset, setting it right, will require a lot of energy, a lot of tactics, a lot of strategy for doing some of those wrongdoings right. But is there a potential? I suppose so, and I wish all the best to the team.
I'm sure everyone from the industry took a look at what the prospects were for the company, Suresh, and where value might lie. I'm not asking you to comment on the specifics of 58 rupees per share, but do you think it's a fair price that Tech Mahindra set out for Satyam from Tech Mahindra's perspective?
Since I have not done an evaluation, I really cannot say whether it's a fair price or not, but I can think of whatever I've heard from public domain. The process has been pretty fair. So price it's like all price is always in the eyes of the beholder. So how does one see the value that it creates vis-a-vis its own existing scenario? So for example, Tech Mahindra has been very strong on the telecom side, and non-telecom side strength comes in through this particular acquisition, definitely puts a little more value creation for them than anybody else could have. So there are a lot of pluses and there are a lot of minuses. So unless you really do your own spreadsheet and strategic thinking, it's difficult to say the price is fair or overpaid.
You have a vantage point view as well, Suresh, of how clients might have read the entire episode. I mean, not for Satyam, but for other IT companies as well. Do you think in that sense, this is sort of a feather in the cap that the IT industry collectively, along with the government, etc., has managed to resolve this issue in what looks like a pretty smooth way and what looks like a rather short duration as well?
I think so, in the sense at least for the first phase in terms of what to be done with the asset as it exists today. But I think the final feather in the cap will come when we have unraveled everything, what has gone wrong, and the real wrongdoings have been punished. I think that will be the final conclusion from an Indian regulatory point of view, Government of India, and also IT industry, and the general industry as a whole, not only the IT.
Typically, from your knowledge of the space, Suresh, would you expect the steady client erosion? Forrester just told us this morning that Satyam was losing revenues at the rate of $200 million a month. Do you think that will stop now that they have a figurehead or a clearly identified leader of the business in place?
Well, then that's also very difficult to comment upon without the exact understanding and knowledge of what business they are doing. But if you see generally, there are revenues which are of multiple nature, including development, discretionary, maintenance, and so on. And we all know that depending upon what the quality of revenue that you have, which has a higher vulnerability of discontinuance and not. So the very fact that there is a general environment of little bit of shrinkage on the demand front, I'm sure Satyam as an entity would have got its share. And given the kind of an environment, it would have gone a higher share. How quickly the transition happens and the new management comes to play and deals with the situation, that will clearly drive this, whether deterioration will happen or not.
Thanks, Suresh, for your thoughts. Sudhin Apte also is back with us. He's from Forrester, of course. Sudhin, early in the day you were telling us that it is your least preferred scenario for Satyam, Tech Mahindra, and you would expect a further erosion of revenues, maybe to all the way down to $800 million per year if they went on to win. Now that they have, you think a lot of the clients of Satyam might be concerned?
Yeah, I think so. And, I still strongly believe that this may be a good expansion plan for Tech Mahindra. But from a client perspective, I think this integration is going to be a challenge for Tech Mahindra for a range of reasons. Lack of synergies in lines of services and verticals. There is an issue about a small company buying a big company, which typically always creates an issue about integrating of the people in the team. Then there is an issue about, we talked about clients perceiving someone who is from telecom domain, very strong telecom domain, buying into auto, aero, manufacturing, SAP type of services, which, the buyer don't much dwell into. So there is going to be a issue in terms of skills differences and stuff like that. The clients who are sitting on the fence, and I believe that a sizable number of clients sitting on the fence who were waiting and watching who buys it, and they would surely shift. As I said earlier in the morning, the dissatisfied client about Tech Mahindra from the Satyam's client portfolio would be the most as compared to L&T or Cognizant. I don't have any doubts on that.
All that thought